Hello, welcome to my garden here in Denmark. It's the middle of July. This is a Zone 7 equivalent here in Europe. And as you can see, there's a lot of plants in bloom right now. So let's take a look at what's in flower. First and foremost, Geranium roseanne. I tend to mention that on almost every tour. And the reason why is that it flowers from June and right up until frost. So that is a really long duration. And yeah, it's the blue one. And I have that in a lot of my borders. And I use it as a plant that will always provide some sort of interest throughout the season, basically. Right from June until frost. That is such a long flowering season. And that allows me to put in a lot of plants that are more in the category of stunners, basically, because this one will keep up the show. Also in there for a splash of different color, I'm not sure if this is Geranium and Folkheart or if it is Geranium and Thompson. They look similar, only Geranium and Folkheart will weave itself through other plants, basically. Yeah, you can see there's something in there as well. It might be an Folkheart, whereas Geranium and Thompson will form a mound. Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure since it's mainly right there. So yeah, it might be either one. They're easier to distinguish a little bit later in the season, because by then an Folkheart will have these really long stems and will hence be a lot easier to identify. Also in here, in between flushes, and I should trim some of it back, is the rose, and it's Rose Roald Dahl. That is a really nice looking rose, but something like this, where I've deadheaded it, and there are no buds left anymore, I should take back to here. So that should be trimmed right back, and that will enable another flush of flowers from a bit up, right? Also looking a little bit tired by now. This Nepeta, Catmint, Walker Slow has flopped a little bit, and I will also trim that back. And basically I will normally trim that back to where there are no flowers, so that would be down here, or perhaps a little bit lower. So not all the way down, but quite a lot down. And I will do so, I have quite a few of those, and I will do so gradually as they become more and more tired, basically. And they will rebloom, they will shoot again. Yeah, just so many flowers in here, and nice looking phlox in there as well, giving some nice variation in here. I have quite a lot of geraniums in my border, so it's nice to see something else also in flower in there. Unfortunately they've flopped a little bit, so they're harder to see, but thalictrums, meadow rose, believe it's Splendide, that would be my normal go-to meadow rue at least. It's the one I have most of, let's put it that way. I have some other varieties as well. They're easier to distinguish when they go to seed, because Splendide is sterile. So by then I will know which one is which one. Also in flower, the Daylilies. I have quite a lot of Daylilies in this garden. They can look so nice. Also the hoverflies really tend to like these for some reason. So there are a lot of hoverflies here in the Daylilies. I'm not sure why, to be honest. That is also a nice looking daylily, and almost the size of my hand, right? That is not a bad daylily right there. Yeah, and let's just take a look back. That is quite good looking. Moving along, here you'll notice my apples. I believe I will get a harvest from this apple tree this year. I moved that one, was that 1.5 years ago perhaps? Last year I removed all of the fruit so that it could recover, but this year I'll get some nice apples. Again in here, more High Beauty. I did give that one a Chelsea chop. That is, I cut it back by 1/3, left 2/3 of the plant standing basically. And that's because I've had issues with it, and that it flopped for me. It just became too top heavy and then it will flop. And hence I gave it a Chelsea chop. And that is, you cut it down in June. And here I do a Chelsea chop a little bit later than they do in Britain. Yeah, they trim it when it's the Chelsea flower show in June, right? But here I do it a little bit later, and that is, they are in a bit of a warmer climate in Britain. It's a little bit colder here in Denmark. This is zone 7, and I believe they are mainly 8 and 9, at least in England. And of course it varies a little bit throughout. Britain is quite large, right? At least compared to Denmark. Again, yeah, these daylilies, I think they provide a nice show right now. Really nice looking. I have cleaned them up. Issue with daylilies is of course that the flowers will die every day. New flowers will open up, and hence the buds that are left after flowering are really ugly, and hence I remove those, at least when there's a garden tour on. Also in here, hovering above these daylilies, another thalictrum, just about to open its flowers. I like the see-through effect that they give. Unfortunately, there were some strong winds earlier this summer, and quite a few of my thalictrums have actually fallen over, and I've had to clean them up. So there are not as many thalictrums here as there would usually be, or at least they don't have that strong a presence here this year, unfortunately. Also, what is that? Veronicastrum, and I believe that it's the one that is called Erica. Okay. It's just about to flower, right? Just about to flower. It's still too early for the bees to be in it, but that is a bee magnet actually. So that's it's just because it's only just about to open up. I think that is a really nice looking plant, right? I like having these pillars in the borders. I think it is a nice contrast to all of the geraniums as well. Another pillar plant in here that I should trim back is the sage, and that is Caradonna. That could use a refresh. And again, I'll just remove the spent flowers, basically these spent stems, and just trim them a bit back. And hopefully that will trigger a reflowering. So about half, right? So I'm not taking them down to the ground. Yeah, what is happening up here? Why is that looking like that? I'm turning this border in here between these two benches into grass again. And that is my forever project basically. That has taken a lot of time. But yeah, still looking sort of nice, right? Actually a couple of thalictrums that are still standing in there, which is actually impressive given the winds that we had here. Yeah, the other side of this border, the border that runs along my hedge here, and yeah, on the other side is my driveway basically. And again, this daylily, this is a real stunner, right? That is not looking half bad. And yeah, Going over the border again, I believe this one might be Ann Thompson, actually Geranium Ann Thompson. Also in the back again, Geranium Roseanne, and in there a Hydrangea pinaculata that has just started flowering. When you buy a Hydrangea pinaculata, do check up on the varieties, because some of the varieties tend to flop a bit. And I don't think that they should flop when you can get varieties that don't. So see if you can get one that doesn't flop as much as the rest. And also remember, sometimes they tend to flop more when they're young, because their stems will become better and better over time, right? But still, go for some that don't flop as much. If you can, if you have the option, right? Yeah, more Daylilies. I really like Daylilies. I think they provide a nice show here. And my Roseannes will basically keep the show going right up until frost. So I don't need to take that much care. These Daylilies don't flower for that long, or at least the majority of them don't. I actually have a couple that will rebloom throughout the season and send up new flower stems, basically. So you can actually get Daylilies that will rebloom. But of course, if you fall in love with a daylily that is looking really nice and it doesn't rebloom, I don't know if this one does, just buy it and add it in, and it will look nice for you. Since I remove the spent flowers, I have my daylilies close to the edge of the border so that I can get to them. Yeah, not too bad looking white thalictrum. I never ordered white thalictrums. I only ordered, I think it was the Splendide in the not white variety, the pink one. But I received some that were white. I still think it's the Splendide though, but Splendide white. So they gave me the wrong one. This one has not opened up yet, so will become even better than that. In the back in there, that is a bee magnet, and that is, what are they called? Veronicastrum, and I believe that one is Lavendel tuum, right? Just look at all the bees in there. I don't know if you can see them from out here, but they are going nuts in that thalictrum in there. Now this shrub that is right here in front of everything, at some point in time when it becomes a little bit larger, I will remove some of its structure at the bottom and basically raise it up so that you can see through it and into that border behind it. I believe it's still too early to do so. I might thin it a little bit, but I will do that eventually as it gets taller, and see if I can just raise it up a little bit. Also just about to open up, just about, you can see there's actually a bee in there. That is Allium Millennium. That is a nice allium, and it grows really nice there, but I think I will move it to a different spot, and that is, I want to be able to see the water in there better. There's a small puddle of water in there, and I would like to be able to see that better, and hence this allium is sort of in the wrong spot. Even though it isn't that high, I believe it's too high, given how small that barrel of water is, or what do we call that? That water feature is. Yeah, hosta, nice looking hosta. This will become my hosta corner. I will change this corner and put more hostas in. Not that the yellow plants in there don't look good, at least not right now, but on a hot day, it's not a good corner for them. It gets too dry. So they will always look terrible. As soon as it's a little bit dry, they'll look terrible. Whereas hostas in there have looked good all season long. So I'll replace them, cleaned up. That'll be a project. Let's continue along. Really big yellow daylily. Really nice looking, basically. I do like this one. I don't use lots of yellows. If you notice throughout this border, it's not that there's a lot of yellow in there, right? But I do like this this daylily right here. Looking great. Right next to Rose Sea Lasmana. Looking great. Again, I need to clean it up a little bit. Remove some of those spent stems, basically, that has no buds on them anymore. I need to trim those back a little bit. But overall, a nice looking border. Nice looking, I believe that one is Salictrum splendide. Yeah, a meadow rue. It's looking nice. Butterfly bush just about to flower. Butterfly bushes are not invasive here, but do watch out if you are in a place with where they can tend to spread like crazy. So, and here they don't. So they're not invasive here where I live. But do watch out for that. And I believe you can get sterile varieties. I've not looked into that a lot though, because I don't have the issue here. Yeah, again, I think overall that border over there is looking great as well. Let's just continue along. Again, one of those white thalictrums. I actually think that is a happy accident, because I actually do like that they sort of give a splash in there, because there are so many varieties of purple here, and again in the back that is Veronicastrum, and again it's Lavendel Turm. Has flopped a little bit. Still looking great though. And that Splendide is a seedling. And I did purchase some that weren't Splendide. Splendide is sterile, and I have some other ones, and they are spreading a little bit. But this one I think is looking really nice. So it gets to stay. Yeah, either you like it or you don't. Lambs here, I like it for giving me a splash of something different. A splash of different color, and I also like it because the bees like it. Just so many bees in there. Just look at them. They're really going in there. Again, I need to get going with some deadheading. What are they called? Red valerian. And again, if you trim those back a little bit, or you remove all of the seeds, so you take them back quite a bit, basically. So not just a little bit, but quite a bit. They will rebloom. So I need to get that going. And also then they won't seed everywhere. So it's a little bit late to do that, but I'll do that. Thing is though, when I do that, I'll need to go in there. And if you take a good look at this, going in there is sort of a job in itself, right? So when I do that, I want to weed as well. Check if there are weeds in there, and hence it becomes a little bit of a longer project. And there are not that many weeds in there, but there's the occasional weed. Those that becomes tall can sometimes establish themselves in there, and I'll hence get something like that out, right? While I'm in there. And then the border will close up again nicely behind me if I take care and take it easy, right? Also, foxglove. I don't have that many foxgloves this year. I've been too aggressive weeding them, I think. They do look really nice. Of course, the first year they will only have the leaves, and the second year they'll give flower, and then they'll die, right, and set seed. But they do provide some height in the border, and the bees like them, and I think that they have this really. Personally I like the pink ones best. Just check that out. That is nice. Of course, very, very poisonous. Do keep that in mind if you have children. Very poisonous. And do teach your children not to eat plants, because quite a lot of plants are poisonous. That one is a killer though, so perhaps I don't think I'd have them here if I had small children. Let's put it like that. Hydrangea pinaculata limelight. That is looking great, right? Not in any kind of full flower, just about to open up, but looking great already. Right next to more daylilies. Also, I need to keep up with my deadheading. This is Geum totally tangerine, fantastic Geum if you ask me. But at this point in time, it should be the individual flower stems here should be cut back, and then it will usually reflower if you trim those back. And also, they're nice to get out of there, because they are sterile, but they still have these very small seed heads. Yeah, of course they won't spread, but they will stick to your clothes. So I actually like it when I've taken them out. But such a nice flower. I can recommend Geum totally tangerine. Yeah, overall this border is looking great. Again, Walker slow. Nepeta looking a little bit tired. These are the Baltic parsleys that I told you about. I think these are better than the wild carrot. At least for me here in this garden, they don't spread a lot, and they come back year after year after year. At least here they haven't spread a lot. They might spread a lot in a garden where, you know, my garden tends to suppress everything because I plant things very, very close together. And when you plant things very, very close together, other plants have a hard job germinating. So there aren't as many weeds here, but also some plants that spread by seed can have a bit of a harder time. Echinacea magnus, just at the very beginning of its flowering season. I think I need to adjust these supports a little bit. They were put in a hurry due to that wind system passing through. I didn't want them to flop, but I think I need to adjust them a little bit. Yeah, the supports are right there. And normally I try to put them in so that you can't see them as much. And the red valerian here, still going nice. That one, only a few of those need to be cut back at this point in time to enable the reflowering, and I will prioritize that. I think that is the next project in this garden. And yeah, again, Veronicastrum is that adoration or something like that. I believe it is. And I think if you look at this border with those plants in it right now, at this exact point in time, it is looking really nice. At least if you like a border that looks really wild, then it looks really nice. And I really like it. I like this see-through effect of these meadow rose as well. Again, I believe these are both Splendidas. Again, the Splendida is the one that I have the most of because it won't spread. And I think it looks really nice as well. So what's not to like about that? And then I have a couple of meadow rose that will spread by seed, and usually they have a hard time making it when they're very small in this garden. Because if they start out down in that somewhere, they have a really hard time, right? So not that big of an issue with things that seed here again. But I do like it with plants that don't seed because they stay where they are. And I really like that. Plus, quite often the sterile varieties flower longer. And they don't spend any energy on setting seeds, so they also tend to look better for a longer time, at least in my opinion. Again, the geraniums really carry this. I believe this one is actually Geranium and Thompson. Perhaps it's actually both, perhaps, yeah, there might actually be more than one down there. It might actually be a combination of Ann Thompson and Ann Folkart. I'm not going to check, but you would check just by the length of the stem. If it's a really long stem that's weaving, it's most likely Ann Folkart. Yeah, border is looking nice, but it's July. It's supposed to be at the very height right now. Again, the Daylilies, I like them. And yeah, that is a fantastic color, right? If you look at that deep purple and then the lime and then a hoverfly in there. And yeah, it's not that large though. It's not that large. 2/3 of my hand perhaps, so not as small as they can be, but definitely not as large as they can be. Some can be larger than my hand basically. Again, yeah, the hoverflies, really like those. So many hoverflies. I like seeing them. Their larvae, of course, eat aphids, so hoverflies, it's nice to see a good amount of hoverflies in the garden. Daylily entwined in the vine. Yeah, if you give a daylily a name like that, I will actually remember the name. So that is clever naming. Plus, that is a stunner, right? A little bit of slug damage on that one, but do check out that one. And sometimes these can have a lot of flowers going at the same time. It is not a rebloomer. At least I haven't seen it rebloom in this garden. But it will bloom for such a long time, even though each individual flower only lasts for a day. It has so many buds that it just keeps on going for quite a few weeks. And when it does, it's one of the best looking plants in the garden, I think. Yeah, again, the see-through effect of these meadow rose, having those, I really like that sort of this small flowers hanging in the air effect. That is so. I'm a bit sad that some of them got ruined by that. It wasn't like a storm or anything like that, but some strong winds and quite a few of them toppled over, and hence I cleaned them up and removed those that toppled over. At least the majority of them. Also in flower in here, just starting to flower my phlox. Starting out now. That is nice looking. And also a hydrangea in that, not a pina colada. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Really big leaf variety. Looks quite nice. And it is actually in flower right now. That is looking a bit special, right? I think in there, when that plum in there establishes itself and I replant it in there, when that establishes itself again, it won't look as though the border is fine and then sort of shrinks away. It will recover. Yeah. Down here, yeah, my rose, Lady of Charlotte. I had some Geraniums down there, yellow variety that was very tight and very not as compact as I believe to begin with, and it flopped out over my lawn and killed off the grass. Basically I've removed it, and also I believe it was too compact for the rose as well. And I moved some geraniums here. I can't remember the name of them, but they will, and also when I move geraniums, I usually trim them to the ground and they are then hence recovering. That one was moved a few weeks ago. That one is looking great. and the others here are in recovery mode. I think they will recover nicely. The roots on them were fine. They are not roseannes, and that is, roseanne is too large. If you plant that one next to a rose, the roseanne will grow up into your rose and almost over it. I would not, at least unless you have a really tall rose, right? If it's a really tall one, yeah, then roseanne is a perfect partner, I believe. But this one, what is that? Goes to my shoulder or something like that, right? With the tallest stems. But the main part of the rose is 2 feet above ground. And geranium roseanne can easily overcome 2 feet when it has something to crawl into. And it would be a mess if roseanne was in there. I have tried with roseannes close to roses and regretted it. Also in there some oregoniums, and I had the yellow variety here, and I believe this one is a cross. Yeah, it hasn't retained any of the yellow in the leaf, but I believe it's a cross with, I have some other oregoniums in here. I don't believe that one will be edible. Yeah, I probably won't die, right? Not like it's poisonous, but does it have a nice smell? Almost none. A little bit, but not a lot. So that is not a cooking variety. The cooking varieties here don't make it in winter. And we will see if that one does. I have noticed that some of those crosses of the garden varieties can actually make it through the winter. So yeah, and I don't know what they're called. You can probably look up the cross if you want to, and you can get garden varieties of oregoniums that are more winter hardy than the one that you use for seasoning. Yeah, looking great in here. I don't think we will go over my project because it's basically been standing still, but I am about to make this path longer and go around the corner here, and that has been a long running project. We're about to wrap up, but Emily Bronte just reminded me that it is great looking. Will be moved because I need to re-establish the lawn there, right? I want the path to go around the corner, and it's going to be on the path. Also another pina colada will also be moved. Yeah, it's a sort of a project going on down here, right? Let's see how that turns out. And of course another daylily presents its flowers quite a lot up in the air. I really like that. And again, looking really great. Yeah, and this is ongoing. We will cover that someday. Let's see when that is, right? Because that has been ongoing for quite a long time. But basically the plants from that border that I'm shutting down are slowly being migrated down here, along with all of those bulbs that I usually have in my garden, in my borders that are there in spring. There are so many of them, and that is quite some work moving those. So it's rather slow going. But overall, I think we managed to get all the way. And yeah, there's a severe weather warning today. There might be some really heavy rain at some point in time. But let's see how it goes. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.